Hello everyone and welcome back to the Retro Recall. I hope you're doing awesome. Today we have the Dell Quadruplets on the bench. 4 more systems saved from e-waste. And I realized they could be fraternal quadruplets, right? They're very close to each other. And when I saw the 4 of them, I just said, no, I'm going to have to do a video on them. I should say the scope of today's video is going to be going over each individual system, seeing what kind of hardware is inside them, what came with them, as well as do they post? Do they do anything? And that's what we're going to do today. We can do restoration videos another time. Today, we are going to see what these systems came with back in the day to see if there's been any modifications or are they even salvageable? Let's get right to it. Okay, and here we are with system number 1, and this is the one that was furthest on the left, and we're going to go that way throughout the video. And so we have a Dell Dimension 2400 computer. And this one here clearly has a CD-ROM drive. I don't see any other markings on the front of it to denote it was something else. And it seems that this one does have a floppy drive built in. And I think if you remember on one of my other videos, I think it was Attack of the Dells, I had wondered what this space was for, just because of the odd shape. And, there was a few comments. It could be for a floppy drive, a zip drive, etc. And the one that I hadn't had that. It had the blank out, plus it had the cage missing on the inside for support. So I anticipate that will be inside the system. So on the front, again, I mentioned it is a Dell Dimension 2400 with the Dell symbol. We have our power and our hard drive LEDs in the front. And again, this is not one of the ones that open up in the front here to expose additional I/O. And down here we have designed for Windows XP, so definitely an indication of roughly around the time frame when this system would have been released, as well as an Intel Celeron inside sticker. So not very powerful in terms of that, but what can we do with a Celeron processor? We will see. So on the front we also have some front I/O. We have 2 USB ports, and it looks like an audio out port. So just nothing too fancy there. Okay, let's flip it around this side. We just have the Dell logo on this side. Nothing too fancy there as well. And I mean, it's not in terrible condition. Yeah, there's a bunch of scratches and stuff like that, but there's no major dents. It looks like it just would have been stacked on another computer and kind of slid across. Okay, on the back, we have our power supply, which looks universal enough that could potentially be replaced with another ATX power supply. So that's pretty handy that Dell wasn't holding that too proprietary there. We have two PS2 ports. We have a parallel port, serial port, onboard graphics VGA port, 3 ports for your audio, 4 USB ports. I don't know if they're USB 1 or USB 2. We have a gigabit Ethernet port here, which of course could, I say it's gigabit, could be 10100. I've been known to be wrong on that. Looks like we have a spare fan that's been installed in this as well for additional cooling. So we do have that added, which is a bonus, other than it being quite dirty. And then we do have a modem, and I would fair to say that that's a 56K modem. And again, my guess would be the gigabit as well. So we'll flip this around here on the other side. And again, we just have our case and our XP Home Edition serial number. But I just want to grab this real quick, and I see that the latch is here to open this up, but no safety kind of thumb mark there on the system. So I was able to just quickly open that up. So that's pretty good. Let's look inside this computer. And inside this computer, we have our CD-ROM drive, which is connected, and it is sporting IDE here. So nothing terribly fancy. It was just obviously on the edge of going to SATA technology within a few years. Then we do have that cage here holding the floppy disk connector here. So, our floppy drive. So yeah, it is something that I had mentioned in a previous video with this type of design. Nice to see that cage that's there. And for anybody who was commenting on the previous video, thanks again for all your suggestions about 3D printing a drive cage, or again, the obvious, which is, finding and pulling it from a different system. So on the inside of the tower here, we do have a hard drive, which is awesome to have. And it looks like we have DDR or DDR2 memory that's on this machine. Yeah, so we do have that, not installed, may I add. We do have our ATX power connector here, which is great. We have 3 PCI ports here, expansion ports, which is also wonderful for expansion. And then we have our front I/O cables running here to the front of the case. So again, Dell, very simplistic, very simple, but it works. But to my knowledge earlier, I had mentioned about potentially being able to replace the ATX power supply, and it seems that we can. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is just caked with dirt. I mean, you can see all inside there. The same thing with the processor. There's quite a bit of dust bunnies living in there that none of them were invited to this party. So when we decide to do an actual restoration and get this all kind of cleaned up, it'll be good candidate. I mean, most of the system is here. So I'm going to pop in some memory, just, not a lot of memory, just to get it going. And we're going to set up a keyboard, mouse, and monitor on the bench and see if we can get this computer going. Okay, and we're back with our Dell keyboard, trusted keyboard and trusted mouse. They're both USB that I have plugged into the back of the system. Yes, it accepts PS2, but that is not what I have going right at the moment. And I was able to get some memory for this. It is DDR400 memory that I have installed in this system. So for everybody that was screaming at the screen earlier, when I said I don't know if it was DDR or DDR2, but it is DDR memory that's installed. And I was also able to spray some contact cleaner in there just to make sure that we have good contact. So let's hit the power button and see if we get some life out of this machine. Okay, yeah, we have something. We have a post screen, F2 for setup. Oh, looks like I did not catch it quick enough. Let's do Control-Delete and see if I can get into the setup screen. It says, okay, entering setup. And let's just see what the system has in front of us. Well, that's definitely a different interface. I haven't seen this before, this style. So we have a system time of, it is correct system time, no less. Tuesday, July 18th at 6:14, which would be my time. And yeah, it's looking pretty good here. So we have an Intel Celeron processor running at 2.4 gigahertz with 128 kilobytes of integrated level 2 cache. We have our BIOS version A05 and our service tag as well. So let's go into a drive configuration. So we have our diskette drive A, which is there, and then we have our primary drive, a hard drive, and our secondary master as CD-ROM drive, which is, and our hard drive is set to UDMA. So that gives us an idea again of the time when this is going. So system BIOS boot devices and USB device not installed. So that's the order of the boot or the hard disk drive sequence. Then we have our boot sequence, memory information. Okay, so I thought I grabbed sticks of DDR400. I did not apparently, or it's matching the speed of the slowest RAM stick that I have in there. Again, I dug through my RAM real quickly and just threw it in. So we have a gig of memory anyway that's installed in the system, and it's in single channel mode. Obviously, it must be because I must have 2 different types of memory in there. So that's probably what's causing that. And then the AGP, so it's built on graphics, as I mentioned earlier on the board. So we have AGP is set to 128 megs of shared memory. Okay, for our CPU, we have the CPU speed running at 400 megahertz for the bus speed. Clock speed is running at 2.4 gigahertz with 128K of cache. Integrated graphics, so legacy select options. So it tells you, or integrated devices, sorry. So we have our sound is on, our NIC is on, mouse ports on, USB emulation, all of our PCI ports, serial ports, all that fun stuff, and then onboard primary video controller. Now, it does have the expansion capabilities, so we theoretically could add a PCI video card if we want, but it is onboard AGP that's on here, so inherently outside of the shared memory, it should be good. And I don't know what the max memory of this board would be. It's possible it's 2 gig of memory, but even then, 128 megs of RAM shared is not too bad for that. So we have power management here. I'm not going to touch that. System security, numlock on, report errors. I mean, this is pretty standard stuff that we have here. We have our fast boot is on, IDE hard drive acoustic mode bypass. And then all that stuff. So we have that. Okay, I'm going to escape, and it says discard changes and exit. And let's see if we can boot into the operating system. Okay, obviously did not shut down properly. Okay, that's fine. Start Windows normally. We have the Windows desktop, and now I did not get ahead of this. This is the first time we're seeing this. So we have Al admin and Big Al. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bypass this outside of creating an admin account through the start or through safe mode. But let's just see if one of these will let me in without a password. Outside of that, I'm not going to. Oh, Big Al does. I'm not sure if this will give me a min. Okay, we have sound working, which is always a great sign. Now this looks fairly standard right now. It looks very clean, so I imagine this was just set up as a secondary user. But it should be enough for me to see what kind of hardware, hard drive space, and all that stuff that I need to see in this. Check so far. System number 1 is operational. So let's go into my computer. So Intel is the onboard graphics that we have. It's an 82845G, GL, GE, PE, or GB graphics controller driver. And for our disk drive, we have an ST3414. So probably a Seagate drive. Let's just do a quick look there and see what we have in terms of capacity. So we do have a 40 gigabyte hard drive that's installed on this computer. And we just have a Samsung CD-ROM. So just a standard CD-ROM drive. It says 148A, so my understanding would be a 48 speed based on what I'm seeing there. Usually I'm pretty accurate when it comes to that. Modems, we have an Intel, so it's all Intel driven. PCI modems, so that's our, it doesn't really give us an option for speed, but my gut would be 56K. But I was wrong on the network adapter. So it is showing a 10100 NIC that's currently installed in this system. And our Intel Celeron processor running at 2.4 gigahertz. And for our sound, we have SoundMax integrated digital audio. And that seems to be the pretty common onboard video or onboard sound that was on these systems. So yeah, there we have it. We have a Dell Dimension, and it is again, 2400 with an Intel Celeron 2.4 gigahertz with 1 gigabyte of memory that's installed on this computer. I think that's pretty good. And they were pretty far off to say that system number 1 is functioning just fine. And it is running really snappily. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's the system is showing still, I mean, it shows more than 70% of my RAM is available. And I mean, the system looks to be running pretty well here. Outside of just wiping this computer, getting all the personal information off it, installing a fresh copy of Windows using the license key, and doing a restoration on the inside, of course, doing a nice cleanup of it, maybe installing, testing out the graphics and things like that. But I think this is a very good working system. So we have lots of work left to do. We have system number 1 of the Dell Quadruplets working just fine. Let's show off system number 2. System number 2 is showing a Dell Optiplex GX270. I mean, I will tell you, this system is quite heavy. Now, we did do another video in our other e-waste system series of another Optiplex, which is slightly different. So again, we'll see what's in this system here. So we have, looks like a DVD-ROM up top and a CDRW drive on the secondary drive. It looks like we do have a very, very dirty floppy drive port here with some additional expansion possible. We have a hard drive light. The power looks like to be built right into the actual switch itself, or the power switch. And we do have a front that opens on this one. And yeah, it's quite filthy as well. So on the front, we have some I/O underneath. We have, looks like 2 USB and some headphones on the front. And then we also have some stickers in the front there. So we have design for Windows XP. And we have our Intel Inside Pentium 4 processor sticker there. Let's look around the side here. And on the side, we just have our Dell logo, nothing too fancy. And again, this case is pretty scratched up, but probably because it was thrown around quite a bit. And again, this system is just heavy, heavy. Okay, on the back, we have our power connector here with our power supply. Power supply looks to be kind of a little more molded into this case, but again, it could be just because of the design. We have a big, looks like a big fan in behind here, a secondary fan for the cooling. And we have our printer port, LPT. We have a serial and onboard graphics again. We have 2 PS2, but this time we're sporting 6 USB connectors here. Now, I don't know if they're USB 1 or USB 2 again. We'll have to figure that out. We have our sound ports, and again, an Ethernet adapter. I don't know what it is this time. Let's get this open case cracked open and see exactly what we have dealing with inside. Okay, and we're back in this case. I will be honest with you, it was like opening up a lobster. This system is quite interesting, to say the least. The way everything opens up. Like, you know, it literally, you have to put it on its side, you have the top and bottom kind of release latches you have to pull apart just before you can do it. And I mean, it even has a case intrusion alarm here that's probably going to be setting off on me when we go to turn it on. Let's kind of do a quick review of it here. So we have our two drives that are here on that we had in the front, again, being run by IDE. We do have the floppy drive that's here. We have space for more expansion, but under here we do have a hard drive installed. Again, win-win. We have a second system now, system number 2, with a hard drive installed in this computer. Now, let's see if I can get this turned around and show everyone the inside on the other flip side without doing any sort of, you know, damage to anything here, because it's just the awkward angle that I'm on right now. Okay, so on here we do have a coin cell battery that's installed. We do have a front I/O ribbon cable here. Yeah, it controls another second supplementary board, and you can see like it looks like a USB 2 connector going through the board. Just different type of interface for sure. I'm so used to seeing it in a different way. We have our ATX power supply connector here, and then of course our breakouts to our various devices. We have our floppy connector, IDE connectors for our drives respectively. On the inside, we do have an AGP expansion card by the looks of things, and we have 4 PCI slots, none of them occupied. It is using onboard audio and onboard video for sure. And the memory that's in this, I'm not even going to guess. My guess would be DDR memory. Let's just see what's inside here. Let's pull it out, and I'm probably going to have to fight with it now because I took it out. It is showing 512 megabytes of DDR400 memory. So I would venture that this has 2 gigabytes of RAM inside, or something very close to that. Okay, so it looks like outside of it being, again, extremely dirty on the inside of this computer, it looks to be intact, which is a good news story. And it's interesting that, you know, people throw away these systems intact. And I mentioned on my last video, you know, do everything you can, guys, when you throw these systems away, to get rid of your personal information, get rid of your drives, or, you know, do something to try to wipe the drive, take it to someone who knows how to be able to get rid of that, because again, you don't want your personal information flying around there for sure. I mean, we've reviewed everything, the processors in behind here. I don't know what it is in it for a CPU. We're going to find that out in a minute, but I'm going to close the case up just because I'll be honest with you, I don't like this design at all. It's more like I said, just like you open it up, like it just opens up like this. And anyway, just, I don't know how serviceable it would be for sure. But yeah, okay, let's get this, let's get the monitor all connected and keyboard and mouse and get this back up to a place where, see if we can get number 2 working. Okay, so we have the computer all plugged in here with the keyboard, monitor, and mouse. Let's hit the power button and see if we can get system number 2 on the go. So far, so good. No screaming. Let's tap F2. So it shows our Optiplex GX270. This is performing automatic IDE configuration. Okay, and we're into our system. So we do have a Pentium 4 CPU this time, running at 3 gigahertz with 512 integrated level 2 cache. The date and time is incorrect, so the CMOS battery that we have in there is gone, so we'll have to replace that coin cell with a different one. So under drive configuration, we have a primary master drive, just a hard drive, and we have our 2 CD-ROM devices there and our UDMA turned on as well. We have our typical hard drive sequence. I won't go through all of this. We did see this in the other system. Again, interesting that they're very similar in terms of the setup here. So CPU information. So we have a bus speed of running at 800 megahertz, 3 gigahertz clock speed, and cache of 512. Integrated devices. So we have all our typical stuff. Again, this is all built on audio, built on video. You know, our printer ports, serial ports, all that is all there. Power management is pretty standard. System security, same idea, and all that those good things. We have another working system so far. I did post. I was a little nervous there because it did hang on the IDE auto configuration for a little bit. We're going to discard changes to exit just in case it saved anything that I was doing. And let's see if it boots into any operating system whatsoever. Are we lucky with number 2? We have Ubuntu Mate installed. We have Linux installed on this computer. Oh, that's crazy. I'm going to choose a guest session. I'm just floored. In all the videos that I've done on this channel, I have never come across a system with Linux installed on the system. So I know that I've been requested to do videos on it, and I will. It will come. But yeah, to just start up a computer that has Linux installed instead of Windows. I expected Windows XP, to be quite honest with you. Okay, so the date's wrong. We know that. Yeah, this is just crazy. Let's see what we have here. Again, I have never used this system, but I'm just looking up. Yeah, we'll close this for now. I'm just looking for the system properties. Okay, under applications, we'll go under system tools, I see here, and we have Mate Disk Usage Analyzer. So it looks like we have a total capacity, it says here, of 40 gigabytes, I believe. Would be, yeah, total file system capacity is 40 gigabytes. That would be the hard disk that is in this system. And I'm just messing around with the operating system a little bit here. I'll be honest with you, I've never used this, so this is new to me. So under, I would say, system monitor, does it, okay, yeah, it gives us a little bit of more information. So it shows a GX270 there. I'll get a little closer for everybody. GX270 there. And then we have kernel Linux of 4.2018 generic. So hardware is 2 gigabytes of memory. So I was right when it came to the actual RAM installed. So we do have 2 gigs of RAM with an Intel Pentium 4 running at 3 gigahertz on the computer. Yeah, okay. So we have our Samsung CDR drive. We have our Samsung DVD-ROM drive as well. So again, indicative of everything that we saw there. We have our floppy drive. And, you know, and forgive me, again, I don't use this system. I don't use Linux much. And so for everyone commenting down below, just not used to, you know, where you would look for certain things in terms of, you know, what am I looking for when it comes to displays and sound and all that. I do know that it's built onto the computer, built onto the system. So we're talking the sound and everything. So when I go into sound here, it just under hardware just says built-in audio, 1 output and 2 inputs, analog, stereo, duplex. So that's all, and it does work. I mean, I'm testing it. Works just fine. So I have no issues with the sound. And in terms of graphics, same idea. I'm just going to go under preferences, I guess, hardware, and I do see display. So it is detecting the Hewlett-Packard 19-inch monitor we have here, which is great. I mean, I can potentially bump it up a bit. I'm not doing that, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of you know, graphics we're talking about inside this system. Just under applications, we have graphics, but again, I don't think that's you know, graphics. We're talking about a scanner, and potentially it says organize your photos, choose colors from the palette of the screen, and rotate images. So that's not what we're looking for. But yeah, system profiler and benchmark. I wonder if it's under here. It is. Look at that. Okay. Let's see. And for everyone who was screaming earlier, I apologize. Again, not used to using this. So it shows here, display. Let's go under devices. Our CPU is a Pentium 4. We knew that. Memory, we knew that it was 2 gigabytes that were installed on that. And it's nice that it's showing a little memory there. Yeah, what's it have? CPU blowfish. What's that? Let's click on that. Let's see what it loads up on our screen. Okay, so there you go. It gives you its own benchmarking. So this computer is showing results of 18.81, this machine, and Intel Celeron M processor running at 1.5 gigahertz. It shows you that, and then it shows a PowerPC 740, 750 running at 280 megahertz. It's obviously the higher is the better, and that shows this machine here. So here we are. We have the system. We have a fully working system, even though it is not a Windows-based machine. It is running Ubuntu. We have a fully working system, Pentium 4 with 2 gigs of RAM, running Linux. Hey everyone, system cut here. Just before we jump into system number 3, I did go in and look, and it does have 256 megabytes of shared AGP memory. And again, built on video on the system, 2 gigs of RAM sharing 256. But again, this is adjustable to 128, 256. Actually, you can go as low as 64 if you want, but I'll leave it where it was. And now let's continue on. We have a fully working system. So let's jump into system number 3. Okay, everyone, we're back with system number 3, and we're excited. We have 2 of our 4 systems, our quadruplets, working. So we have 50% success rate so far, even though it threw me for a loop on the Ubuntu system. So this system is a Dell Dimension 3000 computer with what looks like to be just a CDRW installed. We have, there's that pesky front that I was throwing me off on the first one of the first systems that we had going in another e-waste video. And we have our power, our hard drive, light. We don't have any flip-up cover on this one. We do have 2 USB and what looks like, I believe, yeah, just 1 audio. So that's probably be your headphones. And then we have our Microsoft Windows XP Design 4, which I don't even know is going to be on this anymore, assuming there's even a hard drive. Since I came across my first Linux machine in e-waste, I'm skeptical from here on in. And then we have Intel Celeron inside for a CPU. At least that's what it says. The back of our computer. Again, pretty standard stuff. So we have an ATX power supply. Again, I love how it is universal. You can replace it if needed. This one does have a fan in the back as well, so nice to see. We have our printer port, parallel serial, and our onboard graphics again. So we have 3 systems now with onboard graphics. We have our PS2 ports, audio ports, 4 USB ports, again, not knowing 1 or 2, USB 1 or 2, and our Ethernet port as well. Is it 10100? Is it gigabit? Don't know. Let's look on the inside of this computer now. And here we are. Here's the inside of the machine. And it looks very similar to system number 1, even though system number 3 is a little cleaner inside, a little less dust bunnies having parties in here. So we have our CDRW drive up top here. Here is where that caddy would be. That would connect for a front 3.5-inch or zip drive. So again, I don't know if it ever had one there. It looks like there's a missing panel here on the front there. Now, I can't remember on my other system if it was one missing or not. We do have another hard drive, so success. 3 out of 4 so far have hard drives, so hopefully we'll be able to boot into something. This system here actually does have memory, and it does look like DDR memory, so it will be interesting to see if this fires up right away out of the gate. We have our power supply, IDE connector there, nothing too fancy. On the inside, we do have the ability to expand by 3 PCI ports, always great to have. And we have some cable management, if you call it cable management, running along the bottom of the board here. It's a little tidier than the other system, to be honest with you. So I don't know how many people were sitting inside this system. Well, 0 people were sitting inside the system, working inside the system. But again, these are for the front I/O headers in the front. So I mean, it'd be for your USB and for your audio. Yeah, so I mean, it's looking pretty darn good in here. I mean, a little dirty, nothing too fancy. I would like to get this fired up and just see if we can have a 75% success rate today. Again, these are all systems thrown to e-waste, systems getting ready to be sent to recycling. And here we are now with 3 of them of the 4 so far in our hands, and hopefully we can get the 3rd one up and running. Okay, we have system number 3 all plugged in here, and let's hit that power button that I kind of squished in the front there and see if it turns on without any issues. We have power, no beeps. We have the splash screen, which is awesome. Hitting F2 for setup. Did I get it in time? I did. Oh, HP, always trying to adjust the monitor. Okay, so we have a Celeron processor running at 2.4 gigahertz. Now, the first system was running at 2.4 gigahertz as well, but I believe the cache was 128. This one has 256 of level 2 cache installed. The system time is working correctly, just a different time zone. Drive configuration, hard disk drive sequence, and boot sequence would all be similar, but I'm going to go into the memory here and just look. So, okay, so we have 256 megs of RAM in here, running at 333 megahertz. So nothing to write home about by any means. We have there's only one chip in there, so I'm not going to alter it. I'm going to see what the system has inside of it. We'll focus on that in a future video, but it is showing the AGP aperture set to 128 megs of RAM. So we'll note that as well for the final kind of review. The CPU itself, the bus speed is running at 533 megahertz. Now, I believe the other one was running at 400 megahertz for the bus speed, and we're running at 2.4 gigahertz, which is the same clock speed as the first one. I'm just checking my notes, and it is. And then the level 2 cache is actually running at 256 kilobytes when we had 128 earlier. So that's definitely interesting to see as different. And again, everything's pretty much the same when it comes to the other pieces of hardware. We have the onboard sound, video, network, mouse ports, et cetera, et cetera. We have all that installed. Okay, let's escape and discard and see if we can go into any operating system at this point. Let's see what pops up. Windows XP. All right, so it didn't make a lot of error to me. We do have Windows XP according to the sticker that's on here, and the system is booting up to Windows XP. Now, hopefully there's not too much information on here that I don't have to blank out or have to work with here. So, but yeah, we have system number 3 booting, and I've done nothing to these systems so far. Other than the first system, I did have to install some memory because it didn't have any. I mean, not to say we couldn't do things to these systems. We'll deal with that another day. But just having these systems working is just awesome. And we have another working system. So we have John, Rachel, and guest. I'm going to click on guest just at the risk of any personal information from the other two. It's going to probably be a very generic desktop, no doubt, hopefully. But yeah, we'll just kind of see what hardware is installed on this system. And I will say this is definitely the slowest of the 3 systems. The sound sounds horrible. Oh, it's bad. Okay, after much waiting, we finally got to the Windows desktop. Under display, we still have the same 82865G graphics controller. I believe that was a very similar onboard graphics that we had in the other systems. We do have a CDRW drive, which is awesome. We do have a 10100 card. That's what these systems are coming with. Our Intel Celeron 2.4 gigahertz. I believe this is a faster CPU than what was in our system number 1. With the different cache and different bus speed, but again, just something to call out. And there's our SoundMax integrated digital audio again. So nothing too fancy on this one. System number 2 definitely interests me much more than the other 2 here, but again, the first system I believe was pretty workable. This system here needs some TLC, I believe. So we now have 3 systems of the quadruplets working. That's 3 systems. For those keeping count, that's 75% of the system so far. Let's see if we can get a full 100% and see if we have a full E-Way Savior quadruplet episode where all the systems just work. Let's jump into system number 4. And here we are with system number 4 of the Dell quadruplets. And this one is a Dell Dimension 8400. The case itself definitely feels as heavy and very similar to the styling as system number 2, which was a Dell Optiplex GX270. Now that system, my understanding, the Optiplex line is more made for business, where the Dimension was more for home use. Keep me honest down in the comments, but I think that is the case. So this system here has a DVD-ROM drive up top, and we have, looks like a DVD-ROM, RW, and CDRW. So this is a DVD-RW that's inside this system as well. This looks a little different, the front bezel for sure. It's not the same type of material. So I'm wondering if this would have been an addition. You can see that's more matte, where this is more glossy and kind of blends in, but definitely interesting to see. We have a hard drive indicator, and the power indicator is built right into the button. This one does go up as well, and we do have our 2 USB and 1 port in there for headphone jack. And we have design for Windows XP as well, and Pentium 4 with HT on the side. So this does have the hyper-threading option, or at least the sticker tells me it does, but let's see what is along the back of the system. Now, before I switch it around to the other side, the back of the system, this is the side here, and I've been commenting on the conditions of the cases. And a lot of this can be rubbed out with some TLC, but the design of the system is slightly different. Where the other one was black center Dell, this is more of the gray center Dell. And it also looks like it kind of like has, like, I don't know, like a base of some sort, this design along the bottom that doesn't exist on the other three systems. So interesting to see that. So let's continue on to the back. Okay, we're at the back of the system here. So we have a power supply here. We have quite a large fan. Again, kind of identical to what we saw in system number 2. We have a parallel and a serial port, but no onboard video this time. That was generally in this position. We have 2 PS2. We have 5 ports for audio now. So we definitely have a little more expansion for audio. We have our 6 USB ports, 1 Ethernet port, and what looks like a breakout or dedicated graphics for a video card, which is nice to see. And then we have our modem down below, which I would, again, fair to say that that would be a 56K modem. Not sure about the onboard Ethernet, but I would say it's probably 10100. And again, not knowing about USB 1 or 2, but I think it might be USB 1 and 2 based on what we saw on the second system, if that's any indication. So let's get this case cracked open like a lobster. Okay, here we are inside system number 4, sorry. And yeah, it was quite a workout again to get this system kind of opened up, but it does open up a little wider. So I take back, might have been an issue with how far I had the other system opened up, but definitely exciting to be inside the system now. So we have our dual IDE ports here, so we do have that, but it looks like we do have another hard drive. So 4 for hard drive, so hoping that this actually does something in terms of booting. But we do have an interesting SATA. I mean, it's a SATA connector here, and I don't think that that's a SATA. Yeah, there's no adapters here, so this system does come natively with SATA power and data based on the board itself, the interface. It does have 4 SATA ports here. We'll get to that in a minute, but definitely an interesting SATA data cable that's here. Okay, and flipping around the other side, let's keep on looking around here on the inside, and let's just get a good view of here. So we do have 4 populated sticks of memory. Not exactly sure what they are. We're going to discover that as we go. And we have our ATX power supply, floppy, and IDE, plus the 4 SATA connectors. And when I say it's interesting for a cable, as I pull it out, I mean, there you go. I have no idea what that contraption is or what that's for, or that lights up, or that does anything. But, you know, if you know in the comments, let me know. But, you know, I don't know. I've never had to deal with or seen that before. Our processor is here, heatsink, everything's behind here, power supply. And it does look like I probably could switch out this power supply if needed. So I've been making that comment earlier, so that's nice to have. And our video card, I want to see what that is. You know what? We'll wait until we boot into, if there's any sort of operating system, we'll boot into it and just see what we have installed there. What surprise are we going to discover? And then we have our modem down below here, quite dirty, and I can't quite get a read on the modem either, but I think it's pretty much generic, but it is PCI. So, I mean, in the system, we do have the 1 AGP. Oh no, wait a minute. That looks like PCIe. That's definitely interesting to have. And then we have our 3. Our 3, yeah, so that's PCIe. That's a 16 lane, and I have a 1 lane sitting down here, a PCI 1X down below, and then we have 3 PCI. So that's definitely interesting to have. I wasn't expecting to see that either. So, wow, I just love getting E-Way stuff. I mean, especially when it's been this much of a win, at least 2 of these systems are definitely worth we're looking at and seeing what we can do with them. But yeah, now that I am completely dirty and this system is completely filthy, I'm going to close it up, I'm going to power it up, and we'll see if we can actually get this system up and running. Okay, and we're back. Good workout tonight. Getting all the systems all set up. So we have the Dell Dimension 8400 all ready to go, plugged into the monitor, keyboard, mouse is all good to go. Let's push the button and see what happens. Just going to tap F2 in anticipation. Yep, sure enough. And we have the Pentium 4 logo this time. That's nice to see. Oh, okay. We definitely have a different interface this time. So we have newer BIOS version showing 2006. So not that much newer, but definitely newer than the other 3 systems by the looks of things. and our processor info. So we have a Pentium 4 running at 3.2 gigahertz, so the fastest of all 4 systems so far. We have a processor bus speed of 800 megahertz, 2 megabytes of L2 cache, definitely blowing the other stuff out of the water here. Hyperthreading, yes. 64 bit technology, yes. Definitely nice to see. So we have memory. We have 4 gigabytes of memory installed in this beast. That's awesome. So we have 1 gig in each slot. Definitely nice to see. So I wonder if the system was used for gaming, possibly. Not sure. The date time is incorrect, so that barrel. So used to working on older systems. The coin cell battery is not working there. Boot sequence, that's fine. Drives, I don't need to talk about drives right now. Onboard devices, so integrated NIC, we have it turned on, that's fine. Integrated audio is turned on, that's fine. USB controller, same thing. That's all good. So video, primary video is PEG, so PEG use the PCI Express Graphics Video Controller, so it is PCIe. Wow. I didn't expect to see that in the system. Under performance, we have hyperthreading is it on? It was off. I'll turn it on. Why not? We have it. You may as well use it. Okay, under security, same idea, power management. We're not going to jump into all that stuff. Okay, I'm going to escape. I'm going to do save and exit, and we'll run into, hopefully, an operating system. And again, system number 4, this was thrown to a pile of junk to be recycled. Floppy disk seek failure. Alert, system battery voltage is low. We knew that. Strike F1 to continue, F2 to run the setup utility. So I don't know why it's seeking a floppy disk. I don't have one, just maybe because it's turned on in the BIOS, but I'm going to hit F1 just to continue. We're going to bypass that for now. Is this another Linux machine? I tell you, this is not planned, everybody. First time seeing this. I honestly thought Windows was on this. Okay, it's asking me for a password. Do I just get by with no password? No, I don't. Dell? I don't know, I'm just trying a couple things here. Just to see if everyone was happy enough to password the password. Is that seriously it? Password was password. There we go. High-tech security installed on this machine. So we have welcome to Linux Mint. Welcome to your new operating system. This welcome screen will guide you through your first steps to show you how to find help and where to get more information about Linux Mint. All right, well, I'm not doing any of that right now, but definitely nice show this box to start up. So whoever would have set the system up would have had that kind of already installed and set up there. Now, that said, I want to go into the system and see what it has for hardware. Is there any hardware options here? System monitor, system reports, system settings. So system settings, control center. Same with control panel. We're getting closer. System info. Here we are. So we do have our graphics card is an AMD. There we go. Oh, you can't see. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we do have our graphics card here. It is showing an AMD ATI/ATI RV370, so Radeon X300 controller. So that is on board. We have a 500 gigabyte hard drive installed on here. 3.2 gigabytes of memory. It says there 4 gigabyte. The operating system's detecting 3.2. Pentium 4 running at 3.2 gigahertz as well. Here we are. Linux Mint is installed on this computer, and we have a fully operational computer set up here in front of us here. I think this is just absolutely great. Let's get the bench all cleaned up. We are successful. I can go down the rabbit hole with this system. I'm not right now. We'll do a different video just on this computer restoration and see if we can do some things with the operating system. This seems to be a bit more powerful system. Definitely been upgraded. Definitely interesting to talk about. So we'll be right back on the bench with all 4 of our systems. And we're back on the bench with the Dell Quadruplets, the fraternal quadruplets. And we've proven that through the discovery of all the systems that we have here. I mean, I'm just blown away at a couple of these systems that were found. A couple of systems are arguably a little slower than others, some older, some newer, but again, all within that nice range. I mean, our system number one here was the Dell Dimension 2400 that had the 2.4 gigahertz Celeron CPU, 1 gigabyte of memory, only because I added that memory. So again, the only thing I've had to add to all these systems just to even get them fired up, I found them just like this. So just to get them fired up was 1 gig of RAM. It had the onboard 128 meg AGP that was installed here, the onboard sound, 56K modem, the 10100 card, and Windows XP Home Service Pack 3. Our system number two, a little more interesting, is our Dell Optiplex GX270 with a P4 running at 3 gigahertz, 2 gigabytes of DDR memory with onboard 256 megabytes of AGP RAM with our onboard sound as well. And I believe this also had the 10100 network card on it. And then what really floored me was it had Ubuntu Mate installed. So a Linux distro installed on that system. I'll come back and comment on that in a moment. So system number three, we have a Dell Dimension 3000. And that system is the 2.4 gigahertz Celeron that had a little bit more cache memory. This had 128 that had 256. So I'm thinking this was a newer system somehow. But again, just my thoughts. Onboard 128 meg video, 10100 onboard sound, Windows XP Home, pretty standard. These two here, systems 1 and 3 were pretty standard of what we found. And then we have system number 4, which is the cream of the crop on this entire lot. And I just love it. So, I mean, this system here is a Dell Dimension 8400 running a Pentium 4 3.2 gigahertz processor with 4 gigabytes of RAM, 500 gigabyte hard drive. So someone definitely upgraded this system or worked on this system for sure. You can see how that's broken off there. We have dedicated graphics card built into the system, upgraded in the system, ATI Radeon card and it's PCIe graphics card. So we have that installed in here as well and onboard sound, but we had Linux Mint distro on here. I'm wondering, because these systems, 2 of these systems, or maybe 3 of these systems were all picked up in one day. I'm just wondering if these 2 systems might have come from the same kind of home or family, the Optiplex and the Dimension. Very possible. Other possibility, it just did not, and it was coincidence. Maybe they just wiped their system through Linux Omnic and tossed it to the side of the curb, hoping someone would pick it up. We have the 4 Dell Quadruplets. Definitely exciting to go through this with everybody. Had a great time doing this, going through the systems. Let me know which system you'd like me to restore first. I mean, I think we're going to be focusing on one of these guys here for sure. And, do we want to keep the existing OSs installed on them, or do we want to put something else differently on them? I was always talking about on this channel, putting some sort of, distribution on these, Linux distribution. Kubuntu, was something that I was thinking about doing just because I've heard it was pretty good. But here we are. We have 2 distros already in front of us. I did not expect the first distributions to be exposed through an e-waste video. So definitely exciting. Yeah, so I mean, this video has gone on long enough. There's definitely lots to be able to talk about these systems. There always are. But I will say we'll end the video there for today. Definitely interested in hearing what you guys think about in the comments about different systems. Tell me about your experiences with these systems. You love seeing these again. What should we do with the different systems? And, including throwing to the trash and recycling. But, I'm very interested in systems 2 and 4. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification button and select all. You'll be notified when I make new content such as this. Please leave a comment down below. I try to respond to absolutely everybody that I can. Love the interaction on the channel, and I'm always trying to make new content. Thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.